Welcome to another episode of Sips and Screams, where twin sister horror movie fanatics sip themed cocktails and discuss our favorites in the genre. Today, we are going back to 1980 to talk about the original Friday the 13th, written by Victor Miller and directed by Sean Cunningham. This movie is the one that made us all afraid to go to summer camps, made us all afraid of those old school hockey masks. It also introduced us to a very young villain who would go on to kill all the teenagers, go to space, fight Freddy Krueger, die, come alive again, the immortal Jason Voorhees. Right? I'm Ashley, and joining me today, as always, is my twin sister, Allie. Allie, how are you doing? What's new?
I am doing great. I mean, you know, this is obviously such a classic movie.
Yes.
One of our favorites. Very excited, as always, to dig in.
Mm-hmm. And you know, we're actually dropping this as a surprise on Friday the 13th.
Surprise.
You know, we had to. We had to do it. And this is going to be a very, very special episode of Sips and Screams. As always, you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Our handle is at Sips and Screams Pod. You can also email us at sipsandscreams.podcast@gmail.com. Also, we are everywhere where you find your podcasts, so please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. It's that time again. It's time for Killer Cocktails. Allie, go.
Killer cocktail time.
And there was one choice for this one.
Only one choice.
There was one choice. It had to be beer. It had to be today. It had to be Friday the 13th. No strip Monopoly on this one.
No.
Just some good old-fashioned American beer. Just some Budweiser. So you got your Budweiser?
Just some Budweiser. I actually have my Budweiser, Ash. For those of you listening, she does not have, she has a version of it, but it is not Budweiser.
Listen, I tried. I tried to get the original Budweiser. I even wanted the bottle. Like, you look at you with the bottle.
You didn't try hard enough, Ash.
You didn't try hard enough. So I have cans of Bud Light. Same thing. I do
not even a bottle.
I do prefer the original Budweiser. But let's get going. Let's do this. We're not at camp, but like, we're going to create the nostalgia.
Yeah. I mean, and man, have the bottles changed since 1980.
Oh, they have. Those little stubbies. I love it.
Yeah, as I struggle to open this over here.
Yeah, you can't even, is it a twist off though? Is it?
You know, it is a twist off, but luckily we're also wearing, for listeners, we are dressed in honor of Mrs. Voorhees today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was able to use this sweater to help open this. Yeah. She liked her wool sweaters.
She did.
Yeah.
It was like fisherman camping sweaters. She looked real cozy. She looked real cozy in her wool sweater.
She did. Kind of unassuming, you know, in her little sweater. Who knew? Who knew Mrs. Voorhees?
It was raining, you know?
Yeah.
So we are wearing, our nice wool sweaters. And I will say it's hot as hell in Florida right now. I'm going to make
also in Baltimore, but got the sweater on.
The Bud Light's going to keep me cool. Refreshing, if you will. Okay, cheers. Yeah. Cheers. Episode 7.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a special one.
I never drink Budweiser. I got to say, it's always more of a Bud Light, Coors Light. I mean, when I do drink beer.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's refreshing.
I love Coors Light, Bud Light. I don't think they've improved upon it. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's just good. Like, you want like a nice refreshing beer at a ball game.
It is good. Yeah.
It's delicious. So love me some Bud Light. All right, we're moving right along. It's time for Sips and Synopsis. Allie, as always, take it away. Tell us about the plot of Friday the 13th.
Sips is, yes. And this one, there's a lot to dig into. It was on rewatch, watching this movie. You're like, damn, was that really 44 years ago?
44 years ago.
44 years ago,
what?
Yeah. And I also forgot
I'm like, my brain is like fried, just like saying that. That's crazy.
1980. And obviously this is a classic slasher movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know kind of Halloween started it all. This one followed it up shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
But I think the premise of it happening on one day, at least this original one, on one day, on Friday the 13th, on a full moon.
Yeah.
What we find out in this movie actually was Jason's birthday, Friday the 13th. You know, it's everything culminating in one day, like everything
one glorious rainy evening.
Yeah, the storm that comes in. They really set the mood in this movie. Mm-hmm. So of course this movie takes place at Camp Crystal Lake, filmed on location at a real Boy Scouts camp.
Oh, Boy Scouts.
Yeah, which is great.
They like kick the campers out.
I guess
like,
so. I know, because they filmed it exactly. And they're like, just give us a couple weeks to film this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the movie obviously was inspired by some of those, or Halloween and some of the older slashers. But of course it starts out, and I gotta say, I love the
And I will say
cinematography.
one thing, because they had all the other, you got to claim your holiday. You know what I mean? Like they had Halloween. They're like, you know what?
Absolutely.
Friday the 13th. I got this.
And there's more of them, right, throughout the year. So it's not just one day. There's a couple
There are.
opportunities during the year to do Friday the 13th.
We're going to have to do, I think we'll go through the series on every Friday the 13th. We're going to release, we're just going to go through the series, go through the franchise.
Yeah. And there's a lot, as you said, a lot to get through. I think 11, 12 of these movies.
They're 12 of them? Dear God. Okay.
So the premise of the movie is, of course, Camp Crystal Lake. A young boy drowned there back in the late 50s. And those camp counselors, they weren't paying attention. They had other things on their minds and, other things they wanted to accomplish by, going to the barn, hooking up.
Yeah.
So late 50s, this kid, Jason Voorhees, drowns in the lake. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of years later, and this is where actually the movie starts, you see the camp counselors, and then these two go up to the barn to hook up. And then I love the way they did this in the movie too. They are startled by someone who walks in on them, and they know this person.
And it's filmed like first person, like voyeur.
It is. It's filmed first person. It's so great. Yes.
We'll talk about that later in ripoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And they're apologizing, and then they just meet their demise. So those two camp counselors die. So Camp Crystal Lake is closed down. So that was in the late 50s. So it was closed down for what? A good 22 years.
It doesn't say, because they go to present day, but I think it's 1980.
1980, yeah. Present, which I noted that too, right? Because it's present day. So it could have been any time, but obviously
timeless.
we know it's 80.
Timeless.
It's timeless. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the clothing, all of it.
It's so timeless.
Lack of clothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it brings us, obviously these murders happened. It brings us to present day, and we meet, before we meet, our main protagonist, Alice, we meet, Annie, another camp counselor.
Oh, Annie.
Who I gotta say is a pretty pivotal role in this, right? She's just excited to be there.
She has no fear. Annie. She has no fear.
And she's just like, I've never seen someone more excited to go start a job somewhere.
She's cooking.
Right? She can't wait. Yeah, she's a cook. So she's coming to this camp. So they're reopening this camp, right? And so we have our camp counselors there, Steve, who owns it, or who's, I guess, the head of it, and he's training these camp counselors.
Steve. So do you notice? I noticed this when they say it, because I've always said Camp Crystal Lake, and they say Camp Crystal Lake. Right?
Oh, the annotation's a little different.
The emphasis is on the crystal. Just a little tidbit. I just noticed that. I was like, have I been saying it wrong all these years?
Also known as Camp Blood. So when Annie goes into the town, right, to the diner, and she's asking all the locals, trying to get to Camp Crystal Lake, and they're just like, like, you mean Camp
startled.
Blood? They're very startled. And so she does, though, get an offer of a ride from this gentleman in his truck, who takes her not quite to the lake, but I guess to some road that's near the lake.
But wait. This dude, he's creepy. But when he helps her up into the truck,
okay, I have that written down. He grabs her ass and just like,
and I'm like, and she just like, she's
okay
just like chilling, like looking out the window, like, this is fine. I'm with this creepy older dude. I'm like 15 or however old she was. Like,
they're like 16. Yeah.
He's like, are all the girls gonna be as pretty as you? Like, just creep behavior.
So creepy. And like in the 80s, we just like all accepted it, but very creepy behavior.
She's like, haha. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but before they get out there, we're at the very beginning, we're introduced to the local drunk, I guess, Ralph.
The local the town crazy.
But he's married though, right? We find out he has a wife.
Yeah, at the very end. He was the prophet of doom, Elle.
He was the prophet of doom. I mean, again, maybe the smartest person in this movie, right? Yeah. He's telling him, like, don't go there. No, it's cursed. It's cursed. But, Annie's like, and she gets dropped off there.
I'm not afraid of ghosts.
He doesn't take her all the way. He takes her to
the cemetery.
Yeah, the cemetery. And like she doesn't go all the way. So he lets her off, and then she's just walking with her backpack. And then during that, obviously she gets picked up. There's someone, and this also, you didn't say this at the beginning, but man, Jeeps. I mean, I just had a fear of Jeeps after watching this movie.
No, it's true.
The green Jeep comes by.
You couldn't really see who was driving it.
No,
you couldn't discern the gender.
Right? No, you couldn't.
You couldn't figure that out. Yeah, the Jeeps.
No, and that was great, right? I think that, again, great cinematography there.
Yeah.
So Annie's hitchhiking. She's a little bit further to go. She gets in this Jeep. And it just starts driving erratically.
Yeah.
And she's like, I got to get out of here. So she just jumps out of that Jeep.
Well, it goes past Camp
that's
Crystal
right.
Lake.
That's right. And she sees the
She
thing.
sees
She's
the
like,
sign.
oh, isn't it? I think we missed our stop.
missed it back
Keeps
there.
going. Yeah. So she jumps out and she goes running into the woods.
She stop,
and
drops, and rolls, though. I was like, good for you.
She does.
But
She
she
does.
breaks her ankle, I think.
So Annie's, limping through the woods, trying to get away from this crazed driver.
And she's like, my biggest thing with that, I'm like, this person clearly knows the woods more than you do. Like, you should
Yes.
hide. She doesn't even try to hide. She's just like, I'm going to find my way. So I think that, was a stupid move on Annie's part. But
It was. Yeah. I mean, Annie made some odd choices. I
did.
Getting out there. So Annie never even makes it to the camp, right? Annie meets her demise right there in the woods. Her throat gets slashed. Yeah.
What a
And that's
scene.
The first kill. It's such a scene, right? You're just,
what a
whoa.
scene.
Yes. Very gory. I think there was some pretty gory kills in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very exact. It was like an exact kill. Like a slit,
was.
slit
Like,
her
where
neck.
did they get it from the back? Like, I don't even know. You just see it happen.
You just see it
I don't-
happen.
Yeah. And at this time, I think another thing with this movie, of course, is a slasher. It's also kind of a whodunit film, right?
Yes.
We don't know what's
The
happening.
mystery.
And so, the mystery. And there's a lot of misdirection. They kind of set it up. Like, is it this person? Like, is it Steve? Is it Ralph? Like, who's committing these murders, right? And you don't know. And I think that was a fun part of it because some of the other slashers, obviously Scream did that, but I think, in Halloween, you knew who the killer was, right? At the very beginning. And this one, you didn't.
Yeah. No, that's
The
true.
director even talked about that, right? That he kind of took all the best things from some of Halloween and some of these other movies and kind of chose to use certain ones. Obviously was inspired by it for this movie. So now we go to the actual, the Camp Crystal Lake, the people that are actually there. So we've got our 6 camp counselors, our protagonist, Alice, and another strong female
what a
lead.
haircut.
Yeah. I think, I gotta say,
strong female
I think
lead.
she's
Well,
a strong, I think so. I think she's kind
disagree
of
a little
a B Jamie Lee Curtis, but yeah.
Like a C, like a D, Jamie Lee Curtis. But we can discuss that.
Yeah, let's discuss that.
Like she's an artist, apparently.
Yeah, she
from
is an
California.
artist. California. There were some things that sort of were brought up at the beginning that never happened again, right? That never part of the movie.
I think it was
Maybe they were
supposed to
meant
show that she was different, right? Like a pick-me girl a little bit.
Yeah.
Because she was different than the others. She didn't do all the
She
other
was.
things that other people did.
She didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've got, and we're also introduced to another very famous face before he became famous, right? Kevin Bacon is in this movie for a short period of time. Pretty minor role, I'd say, for Kevin Bacon.
It was like his second
He is
film
in this
or
movie.
something.
Oh, was it a second film? So
I think so.
we had, we got
This was
Johnny Depp
before-
and Nightmare on Elm Street. We have Kevin
this
Bacon in
was-
Friday the 13th.
This was pre-Footloose.
Yeah,
like
pre-Footloose.
4 years before.
Yeah.
He was good at it.
He was good at
he
it.
did his job.
Yeah, a young Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's one of the camp counselors. Jack. We've got Alice. We have all the names honestly kind of
Brenda.
escape me. You have Brenda,
Bill.
Bill, Ned, Ned, and then what was the other girl's name? Ash, the other camp counselor's name? Marcy. So Marcy and Jack are a couple in the movie. Yeah.
Kevin Bacon.
And Kevin Bacon's character. So there's the 6 camp counselors, and then we have Steve, who I guess is in charge. He's their boss, and Steve's just chopping some wood and wearing his jean shorts and his kerchief, and his glasses, and it very
So they arrive when he's like, "You want to come help me?" And they all just run over and start chopping the wood or moving the tree stump. It's hilarious.
Tree stump. Oh, they worked together to move that tree stump, Ash.
They really did. A lot of teamwork.
Yeah. So these 6 camp counselors and Annie, who never actually arrives, and Steve, they're all there to get this camp ready 2 weeks prior to the kids arriving. So again, this was the first time that Camp Crystal Lake is open again since those late 1950s murders. So there's getting it ready. They are obviously waiting on Annie, and she never arrives. Steve, at some point that afternoon, he's going to go into town and get some lunch, I guess, some dinner. I don't know.
Why
he just
does he
leaves them
leave?
all alone. He leaves them all alone.
It was to set up him as maybe the killer, right?
I think so. And he also drove a Jeep, right? So I think it certainly was to set him up as the killer.
I have that written down. I'm like, why did he leave? I don't understand. He's the boss. He's
I'll be
just
back
set
later.
everything up.
Yeah.
And the women are doing all the manual labor as well.
They are. I mean, more power to them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're able to get in there and do this. Like the
women are doing
Alice
the
is up
manual
there with a
labor.
hammer. She's like hammering some things.
The
into
men
like,
are just sexually harassing them, like consistently.
Yep. A
constantly.
lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of that. Speaking of the scene where Steve leaves and they
Speaking
take
of.
that opportunity to go to the lake. So of course they're swimming in the lake. And I think another great thing, right? Someone's watching them.
Yeah.
So you see that voyeurism and someone's clearly watching them from the woods and kind of think maybe someone sees something in the woods moving, but I'm like,
Yeah.
So they're all swimming and then it's Ned, right? Ned. Is, it seems like he's drowning. So they get the canoe out, they get out there, they rescue him, bring him back to the dock. And then he takes that opportunity to when they go to do mouth to mouth, right?
Yeah. And they do that very quickly.
They do. Yeah. And so Ned's fine. He's just a creep.
Yeah. Brenda's giving him mouth to mouth.
It's Brenda.
Being,
That's
like,
right.
Total creep.
He's being super creepy. So they have their fun at the lake and they get back to work at that point, right?
And
so
they set up the archery. I think that was actually before.
Yeah,
it's
that
really
may have
old
been
school,
before.
like target
Holes in
practice.
it. yeah, no, exactly. So they set up the archery again. What is it? Ned is like playing.
Ned and Brenda.
Ned and Brenda setting up the archery, and
he's an asshole. Like,
yeah, he is an asshole.
He shoots the arrow. She's setting it up. He shoots it. She's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like he shoots an arrow, like archery practice at her.
Yeah, at her.
And she's like, it was just a joke. And she's like, you scared me. I'm like, you could have killed me.
Yeah. And so they go back to the kitchen. I think this is like one of those great scenes, right? That a cop arrives. And so they're back. And then this cop arrives and he's like, he's just looking for Ralph.
No, that cop is like a caricature of a cop. Like he comes in on his motorbike with the
Which he
cop
can't drive very
sunglasses.
well. And he can't drive it very well either. Let's be honest.
And just so worried about Ralph.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, so funny. They're all like laughing at him, but like to be fair, this dude was like, putting it on thick.
He was, and
every cop cliche.
And so as the first time you're watching it too, right? So we know that Annie has already died. Like we know something creepy is happening. So at that time, you don't know that it's not Ralph, right? So it could be him. And so they go back in the main cabin, and then I think it's Alice who's opening the pantry, and Ralph's just in there. He's just like hanging out in the pantry.
He's like,
you're doomed. You're doomed. It's like, how did he get in there? Yeah. But he was, to be fair, he was trying to warn them. Ralph was. And so he gets back, he gets on his bicycle and he goes off.
He looks back a lot too. Like,
yeah,
you're doomed. Get out.
But they kind of think nothing of it. Like, I don't know, if someone was telling me like, you're doomed, this place is cursed, and like the cops are looking for him, I'm not sure I'd want to stay at that point.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, it's just Ralph.
Yeah,
they're less perturbed and horrified as I would be if I saw someone like hiding in the pantry.
I know. Same. So Ralph's driving away on his little bicycle, looking back again, trying to warn them.
It's like,
and then at this point, it's interesting, right? Because at this point, we kind of get the separation of the three different camp counselors.
Yeah.
So we have Jack, Marcy, and Ned.
Yes.
And then we have Bill, Alice, and Brenda, right? And so they're in the other cabin. So it cut to Jack and Marcy, they're making out. Ned is kind of, again, being a voyeur himself, and he sees them, and then he kind of just disappears into a cabin, and then we don't see him until sometime later. So Jack and Marcy, the storms are coming. Mm-hmm. So they go into a cabin themselves, and then of course, horror movie cliche, they're making out, they have sex. And I think he lights one of the creepiest old candles I've maybe ever seen. I mean, I guess to set the mood, but it's just this tall candle, and he lights that. Okay, so Jack and Marcy, they're having a good time in the bunk beds, and as they're doing their thing, one of the, and I forgot about this. So I'm rewatching.
Me too.
And so it pans up from them to the top bunk, and this is when you just see Ned's dead body. So he's just been killed, and he's just like lying on the top bunk, and they are none the wiser.
No.
So that's great. And so they finish, and then Marcy, of course, has to go to the bathroom, which also he didn't go with her. Jack didn't offer to go with her. She just like, it's raining at this point, so she just gets up and goes off on her own.
Yeah. She's like, I'm good.
But yeah, exactly. again, like you said,
Go into
the
like
men-
the
men in
outhouse
this
or
movie.
whatever.
Yeah,
the
you got to
men
go
are the
out.
worst.
It's not like there's a bathroom right there. Like she had to go out in the rain and go to the outhouse.
But
area.
everyone had to die individually. So it was very
It's
important.
true.
the
Oh,
movie.
they did all die individually. That's a good point,
Yeah.
Ash. So yeah, so this is when, of course, Jack meets his demise.
Yeah.
And then we see, so now we've got, let's do a count right now who's gone, right? We've got Annie. She's been killed. We have Jack. He's dead. Ned has been dead. We didn't see the kill, but Ned's dead.
He's dead on the top bunk.
Yeah, just on that top bunk. And so now we'll go to Marcy. So now we have Marcy's, where Marcy meets her demise. She's in the bathroom, from brushing her hair. I think she has a brush, right? She's in there.
Yeah, they all have brushes. They're like, I
do.
brush my hair.
And the mirror is like a big part of it, right? She's like doing a monologue in the mirror. But the best part, she's like, she hears something in the shower.
Yeah. And she's in her underwear. Like they're always in their underwear.
No shoes either. There's no shoes to be found. They're all barefoot.
Just raincoats.
Very brightly colored raincoats.
I had this written down, like the amount of brightly colored raincoats they have in this movie. Like, I don't even own a raincoat. Do you own a raincoat? Like,
I do not own a raincoat, no, but it kind of makes me want one.
I know.
Kind of want one now.
They should have sold this as like merch for the movie. They have coats and like that one guy has like a cape.
Yeah. Like a poncho. It's like a poncho, I think. Yeah.
But they were all different colors.
Poncho.
Like all the primary colors.
They were,
Yeah.
which I think popped on screen, Ash.
It did.
But I love how when Marcy's meeting her demise, she like clearly hears something in the bathroom. She looks over, she's like, meh. Yeah. Okay, so initially she thinks nothing of it, but then she hears the sound again right from the showers. So she walks over there and she like looks in the curtains, and so
Very
she's opening those
psycho.
curtains. Yeah, very psycho. So she's opening that, she's looking in, and then she turns around, she sees something, and it's just like, I mean, that scene, and she just gets like an axe to the head,
to the face.
Yeah.
So I was dying laughing. Like, you have to rewatch it. Like, rewatch it. You're gonna be like, this is hilarious. No defense at all. She just
No.
Like, she doesn't put her hands up, which you would. You put your hands up to block.
She just screams. She screams. I mean, you
Axe
hear
to
that
the face.
scream, right? Yeah, axe to the face. And this is happening quickly, right? Again, this whole movie takes place in one day, one evening, really.
One
So
rainy
it's still-
night.
One rainy night, still storming. We go to Alice, Bill, and Brenda.
Yeah.
Who are in the other cabin playing guitar. And then Brenda has a brilliant idea to play Monopoly.
Brilliant.
Like, Monopoly, so boring.
Not
She's like,
regular
"Not-
Monopoly.
Not the way I play it." And so they get down to play strip Monopoly. And this is, of course, where we are, they also break out the Budweiser.
Yeah.
And some other recreational activities as well.
Yeah.
So they're playing strip Monopoly, having a good time with that. And then
Did this movie sell more Monopoly? You know what I mean?
It did.
Or kids seeing this and they're like, oh, okay. Like, we can play this. We can make this happen.
Make our own version of it.
Yeah.
So they're having a good time. They don't seem to be too worried about their friends who have like disappeared. Have been disappeared
They're
for
too
hours
busy
now.
playing Monopoly.
Yeah, and it's it looks like it's going pretty well for some of them.
Yeah, definitely.
But and gotta say, the Budweiser actually tastes pretty good. Ash, it is going down well today.
It is good. It's the king of beers.
But it's getting late. Brenda leaves, Bill leaves, Brenda leaves, and Bill and Alice, I think, are left together. But this is, again, all the individual
She leaves
kills.
in a hurry. She's like,
does.
I gotta go. My windows are open. And
That's right.
He has like
That's
a red
right.
ring. She's another beautifully colored raincoat. And she's out, but she doesn't get dressed. I'm like, she takes her clothes. She does not get dressed. She just goes out in her underwear.
She just puts the raincoat over the underwear. Yeah,
and goes, that's a look.
So she goes to her cabin. She also has one of those really old school, like Ebenezer Scrooge nightgowns and the candle, and it's the best. So she gets to her room. And she has the candle, and she just is like in her Ebenezer Scrooge nightgown, reading. She's just like reading, right? And it's like so great. You hear like, "Help me," like a really faint, like child's voice. And so she leaves the cabin, and she's like following this voice, and if it takes her out into the archery area, archery field, and then just like bright lights, and then cuts to Alice and Bill. So we don't exactly know what happened to her, but I mean, we have a pretty good idea, right?
Something bad. Nothing good. I'll tell you that.
So finally, at this point, Bill and Alice are like, yeah, maybe we should go check on our friends that we haven't seen in hours.
Well, she thought she heard like a scream.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Alice thought she heard. She's like, it sounds like Brenda.
It's like, and I thought we were alone out here.
Yeah.
So they go looking. They go looking for Brenda, and they see that bloody axe on her bed. which is like so crazy. And then they're like, oh my God. And then they go looking
No,
for Jack.
they weren't like, oh my God. It was the most subdued reaction I've ever seen.
What? There was blood on the axe too, right? Actually,
Yeah,
it wasn't
she's
just
like,
an axe, there was blood on it.
I'm like, Alice, she's like, what's going on? It was very like muted, and not really appropriate, I think, to see in a bloody axe. They're like, someone's playing a joke on us. Like, no, they are playing a joke.
Yeah, someone's
There's a
been killed, I
killer
think.
on the
yeah,
loose.
on
like,
the loose.
connect the dots, my friend.
But then they can't find, Jack and Marcy either, right? And so then at least they do. They're like, we should go to the office and call someone. They're like, we should call someone. And so
That's
they
the
do
one
make that
smart
decision.
thing they tried to do.
Yeah, so they're able to break into that office. They realize the phones are dead. We see that the phone lines have been cut at that point. But this is one good thing that Alice did say. She's like, yeah, we should just leave now. We should just go. And it's Bill who doesn't want, says that we shouldn't. Right? Yeah. But again, the car won't start. There's a lot of things happening that are preventing them from leaving Camp Crystal Lake.
Right.
And so this is when they go check on the generator. Bill's able to get the generator going, I guess.
Yeah.
And then at this point, Alice just goes to sleep.
He's like, you should get some rest, and she sleeps very peacefully.
She does. So she just takes a little nap on that couch. Yeah, a little cat nap. Mm-hmm. And then Bill goes to check on the generator. So again, they're now separated.
Yeah.
Which, as we said, a lot of these kills happen individually.
Yes.
Yeah. And so she goes. She does eventually wake up from her nap and just I'm just gonna make some instant coffee. Yeah. I'm just gonna put a pot of water on the stove, and I'm going to make some coffee. Like, that'll help me stay awake.
The amount of sugar that she put in those coffees was
I
absurd.
thought that too.
Absurd.
Yeah.
As much as the coffee itself.
Yeah, it was.
Doesn't get to drink the coffee though.
No, never does. No, we never get to see her drink the coffee. But she did make it and kind of was looking around forlorn while doing so.
Yes.
But yeah. So
she wakes up, she's like looking all over, like, what are you looking at? What was the direction there? It's like, look at everything in the ceiling. Just like a lot of eye contact points.
I know. And then, at this point, she's been alone for a while. So she's like, I'm going to go looking for Bill. Yeah. Right. And so she goes looking for Bill, and then she finds him hanging from the door. Yeah. Bill's dead. Bill didn't survive that. So she finds Bill hanging from a door, and then she goes and she eventually finds just all the dead friends.
Brenda.
Right? Brenda gets Brenda's later, because Brenda gets, we got to talk about that though, right? Because Brenda gets thrown in. So at this point, at least Alice at this point, has some good sense that like something obviously bad is happening. All of her co-camp counselors have been murdered. And so she goes back to that cabin and she puts everything she could possibly think of in front of that door.
Like, did she put enough stuff in front of that door?
She puts like a chair. She like so much stuff in it. She's effectively locking herself in there. She
MacGyvers the door. Yeah. With that rope thing. I'm like, I wouldn't even think to do that. So good on her.
Yeah. Good on her.
Yeah.
But this is the point, Ash, when Brenda, so she's like in the kitchen, and then just Brenda's body gets thrown through the window.
Right.
Like, we're saying like at a pretty high velocity, right? Yeah. Brenda's dead body's thrown through the window. She's screaming. And so she, at that point, she's like, wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
Take this opportunity to tell the one other story that's happening while this is going on, right? So we've got Alice. She's the only one left at the camp. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Steve, he's finishing up his dinner
at the diner.
Yeah, so he's finishing up
Sally,
his dinner.
or what was the girl's name?
I don't remember the girl's name, but she was great though.
She was. She likes Steve.
So he's finishing up. Yeah, she does.
A little crush on Steve.
Yeah. So he's finishing up, and then it's obviously still like crazy pouring rain out. So he goes out and gets in his Jeep. So we see that he has that similar Jeep, right? Mm-hmm. Which I like that part too. And so he drives back to Camp Crystal Lake, but he doesn't get very far. His Jeep breaks down. Yeah. And he's like pulling a trailer in it. So he gets out of it, and then he has to walk back, and then we see that he runs into someone he knows. We don't see who it is, but he's like saying like hi, like, what are you doing out here or something? Yeah. And then Steve meets his demise.
He does. We don't know how yet, but
no,
cuts to
we
black.
don't. Okay, so now like all that's left, right, is Alice. So she does get out of her cabin. She's able to get out of all the stuff she put in front of the door, and she runs out and someone's coming in a Jeep, and she thinks it's Steve, but it's not Steve. It's this older woman. And she doesn't know who it is, right? But this woman gets out of this very maternal character, gets out of that Jeep and comes over to her, right? And we learn that it's Mrs. Voorhees. Mm-hmm. And so she knew the owners of the camp.
She used to work there.
That's right. She was the cook. That's
Yeah.
right. She was the cook. And so she comes in, she says, everything's going to be okay now, and she tells, this is when we first hear the story about Jason, because we didn't know this story before. We knew there were camp counselors killed, but we actually at this point did not know that this boy died. So she tells the story of this boy, Jason, drowning in the lake back in the late 50s.
Yeah.
And that happened on Friday the 13th, right? And that was his birthday. And then we learned that she's Mrs. Voorhees is Jason's mother.
Yeah.
And he's like speaking to her, saying, kill her, mommy.
Kill her,
and all of
mommy.
those creepy
Kill her.
things. That's good. I like that, Ash. That's very good.
I will, Jason. I will.
I will. She's like speaking to him and looking off into the distance also.
She blames those
All
counselors.
the counselors, yeah. They weren't
were
paying
not
attention.
paying attention.
They weren't paying
to
attention to
her
sweet boy.
little
little
sweet
angel.
child. Her little sweet child.
The little boy.
Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. So they a lot happens, in those last few minutes, right? They're keep fighting back and forth. And I think Alice kind of holds her own there. But damn, Mrs. Voorhees has got some strength. I gotta say.
Some strength. Yeah.
She does. So Alice and Mrs. Voorhees are having it out, and it takes us to the lake. So they end up at the lake. They're just like fighting each other. Mrs. Voorhees has a machete, which Alice manages to get it, have her drop it on the ground. And then probably, the best scene in the movie, right? Alice goes in slow-mo.
Iconic.
Iconic. Yes, iconic. And Alice picks up that machete and she goes over to Mrs. Voorhees and she just chops her entire head off just in one fell swoop,
It is
Alice
very clean.
is able to, very clean. Yeah. Yeah. Head goes flying. Mrs. Voorhees' hands are kind of the hand that everyone, the hands keep going. Yeah. So she does it. She kills Mrs. Voorhees, the killer. And then she goes out onto the lake at this point. This is at night. She's all alone out there. Yeah. And we just see the next morning and she's on the lake, just, I guess asleep. The cops finally do arrive. And then at the very end, we see she's not alone out there on that lake. And there's this demon boy that pulls her under, right? And then we go to the hospital. The cops hadn't seen that. And she's like, then he's still out there. So really, certainly set up a sequel very well. Yeah,
definitely. Great.
But that's Friday the 13th, 44 years ago. Just rewatched it this weekend. Yeah. A great rewatch.
Runtime is like 95 minutes or something.
It's a good one. Yeah. You can
moves.
sit down and get through it quickly. It does. There's a lot that happens. A lot of deaths. They happen early. They happen often.
So I have a few little nuggets for just kind of the making of the movie.
Yeah.
So apparently the first draft, it was called Long Night at Camp Blood. Which doesn't really like roll off the tongue.
It doesn't.
Friday the 13th.
13th. No.
And apparently they already had backing. Like the director, Victor Miller, really meant to rip off Halloween. Like he loved Halloween. He's like, I think he wanted to. This.
Yeah.
And he like did the same treatment. Like if you rewatch it, like the cold open is the same. The opening scene, and kind of like the beats and the acts in the movie are very, very similar. Yeah. Besides the like iconic killer, which, we love Michael Myers, obviously. Yes. But he meant to do that. And then another thing, apparently the actor that played Bill, like they were using these special effects and they actually had like really good special effects. Like the Annie scene, it was like a prosthetic. When she was cut, when her neck, when she would like put her neck back, like the blood would spurt out. So at the time that was really pretty modern for special effects. So people thought it looked really realistic. Yeah. But I guess they used all this fake blood. And the guy that played Bill apparently was like dripping down his face or something, got in his eye, and he went blind for 6 days because
because he's like, worth it.
Yeah, worth it. Iconic death. Because they didn't know there was like safe blood, like fake blood that they could use.
Oh wow! Oh, that's crazy.
So that actually kind of like changed the genre. So I thought that was
who knew? That's great. Well, did you know? So I guess I was reading about this too. The original screenplay, like it was meant to be more of an anthology, where it was going to happen on Friday the 13th, and it wasn't going to be this sort of this Jason killer and a continuation of it. It was supposed to be an anthology. Yeah, and it was like definitely by audience reaction, and I'll talk in alternate endings, kind of what made that into a franchise. Okay, I'm very excited. Again, as always, I didn't deep dive into it, so I'm really excited to hear what you have to say.
We have to talk about the snake.
Yes, I know. I didn't mention in synopsis, but yes, we do. Dear God.
Did you know that is not a special effect?
It's a real snake?
That snake was killed on scene by that machete.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. It's real, which is like sad.
That is sad. But also, can you imagine filming that in this huge snake is just like going around the cabin. It's
And you have one try. You have one try to do this. So basically in the scene they like find the snake and it looked realistic. I'm like, that's not like CGI.
It did look realistic, and it's just slithering around that room.
He chopped up that snake with the machete and
a few pieces. The machete,
like,
the machete is useful in multiple ways in this movie.
Well, I thought when he chopped that up, I'm like, ooh, this is like a metaphor, foreshadowing, I should say, for the ending.
Oh, yeah.
When Mrs. Voorhees gets her head chopped off.
That's right.
I don't know if they meant that. I don't know if they had that much foresight, but the ending, but I thought that was clever. Rewatching it.
So that the actress that plays Mrs. Voorhees, she was like a Broadway actress, so that she does this movie. And I guess like after they filmed it, like she thought it was just going to be like this horrible thing, right?
She hated
She hated it. Yeah, she filmed it. She hated it, and then she turned that around after like it became like obviously a cult classic, a box office success, right? This movie made a lot at the box office, but I love that. But originally when they're making it, they're like, "What is this? We're not fans."
And apparently the story is that she turned it down because she's like, the script is crap.
She did turn it down.
And then her car broke down. Her car broke down and she needed the money. So she accepted it.
Yeah. And iconic. I mean, Mrs. Voorhees, one of the best, I think, slasher killers out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the chant, we have to talk about the chant.
Yes.
Do you know what it is? Like what it's actually saying?
No.
I'm going to enlighten you.
Okay. I'm very excited. I have no idea, Ash. No idea.
The whole like, kill her, mommy, kill her.
Yeah.
So it's actually the first syllables of kill and mommy. So it's ki, mama. That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh, that's good.
So I forget who actually like did the recording of the audio, but that's what it is. And it's like so good. That's like
speaking.
That's basically what alerts you to the killer's presence. And clearly,
I love it.
Like, she was kind of crazy, like hearing Jason in her.
Yeah,
in her
I'd
brain.
say so.
Like a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say.
Mrs. Voorhees, like Alice is actually the only one that defends herself. Like everyone else just kind of takes the axe to the head.
Yeah, they're just
there's like,
over.
Like,
yeah.
There's no like, and Alice is the first one. And like they had that slapping scene. Right? She goes and like slaps her and it's like slap. And I'm like, okay, come on. Like I think she could have taken her.
She could have taken like Mrs. Voorhees. With that, what is she? Like in her 60s maybe at that point? Like I don't know.
So. And she goes down hard and then gets back up again.
You know what I mean? She's let's just say this: Mrs. Voorhees is resilient.
Oh, she sure is. She gets back up. Yeah,
she does.
So 1980, when it came out, we weren't alive.
We weren't alive when it came out, but I do remember the first time I saw it. Though.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So those of you who have been listening, I think we've talked a bit about this, but Ash and I have been horror fans since we were little kids, right?
Yes.
And so I think our father introduced us to a lot of these when we were younger.
Grew up on horror films.
We did grow up on it. So I remember vividly where we saw it. So we were, probably like, we obviously weren't born when the movie came out, but like later, probably like late 80s. Mm-hmm. We were kids watching it, and we were watching it, I think, in our living room, and it was on TV or on VHS or something. Yeah. And I remember watching it and just being so terrified. But it was that last scene that I just has stuck in my memory because I was like drinking soda or something and was not expecting Jason to come flying out of that water like that. I remember this. I spilled soda all over myself. Like, I remember this, like, jumping and, like, getting it all over myself. You were probably sitting right next to me, Ash.
Oh, yeah. Probably got on me, too.
Yeah, probably did. Yeah. But I remember that. So that was effective. That seems effective. I was very scared.
Yeah. I mean, it made us, like, love it. And we were very excited to watch, like, all the sequels and everything.
Yeah.
And, like, just watch them all. Okay. It is time for Screamometer. All right. I'm really excited to discuss this with you, but what is your rating from 1 to 10 on this one in terms of scream scares?
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel like I have to preface it with like, I love the movie. This one, obviously when I was a kid, very scared by it on rewatch, does not hold up for me. I'd say this is a 4 out of 10. I give this a 4 out of 10 on the Screamometer. Yeah.
So you were giving it more than I
would. Really? This is the first time I think this has ever happened in our 7 episodes.
So this movie is obviously beloved. We love it. Like, I love this movie. I love the franchise. It's amazing, campy, horror fun. Rewatching it, I laughed more than I was scared. I'm going to give it a 2 on the
2 out of 10.
And I do want to say that I love this movie. It's fantastic. It changed the game. It gave us another beloved horror franchise after Halloween.
It did.
So but it really doesn't compare in terms of scares. But it was good. It was gory. It had some things that I think really set it apart from some of the other Thrasher films. But it's a 2 for me, and
Two.
I definitely love it. I will say it's the original. The later ones were more scary once Jason came into the fold.
Yeah, Jason. Yeah, we need to see Jason, I think.
Yeah, you got to see Jason. He's actually
elevated
scary.
it. Yeah.
But this one's a 2 out of 10. And again, loved it. But just scary. No, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's so funny if you go back and watch like the media and the promotion for this movie, the poster was actually scarier than the movie. The poster's so good. It's like the camp counselors. It's all dark. It says Friday the 13th. Like that's
it is good.
Great in terms of selling it. And then it says, this is the quote on the poster. They were warned. They are doomed. And on Friday the 13th, nothing will save them. Oh. Like, come on. Right. Like Halloween is like he comes home or whatever. This Friday the 13th. That was brilliant.
Yeah. And they created, and it was a great screenplay, right? They did create this atmosphere of like being out there alone in the woods. Like it was great. Yeah.
I think that like, so, I'm still giving it a 2 in terms of like screamometer.
Now you want to elevate it. You want to elevate it slightly, don't you?
Well, I'm just thinking,
there were a few things in there that just were unsettling, that were creepy.
It makes you think, like if you're out in like a cabin, just kind of the seclusion of it all. That was very well done. And it did set the scene like very quickly, and that was well done. Yeah. And that was kind of consistently, and they built the tension. So yeah, I mean that was good, and it's been ripped off a billion times. So okay, we're moving on to Sips and Scares, where we discuss the scariest parts of Friday the 13th. What is your number 1?
Yeah, I want to hear yours since you gave it a 2 out of 10. I mean, number 1, like I talked about earlier, definitely when we're not expecting it, and you feel like she's being saved, and everything is like okay again. When Jason comes out of that water and pulls Alice under, I mean, definitely the scariest part for me.
Yeah. Oh, the jump scare. And 100% that was number 1. But I think for me, like the gore, I'm like, whatever. Like I like the effects, and it was a slasher film and it was cool. The scariest moment for me is when when she's making that coffee and she goes into the pantry, right? Alice, she's making the coffee. She goes into the dark, dark pantry, and you're like, what's going to happen? And then she emerges with this vessel of sugar that she puts into the coffee. But I don't know how she could see the sugar because it was completely dark in there. I thought that like the anticipatory fear, which we always talk about, was really good.
Yeah.
I thought the pan up, we talked about the pan up when they're in the beds to
Ned's dead body. Yeah.
But
what about when Brenda's body gets hurled through that window and you're not expecting that, and Alice screams? I think that's up there, Ash.
That was definitely good. I don't know how Mrs. Voorhees had the upper body strength to just hurl her in the window, but she did.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. I think the scariest part is like the douchey men. You know what I mean? Like, like I'm more scared of the men in this movie than the villain, than the actual killer, because they were just kind of sexually harassing everybody the whole time.
Yeah, they were.
There were some like funny moments, I think, with Ralph, like the town crazy, like the bicycle as he's like driving away. That was supposed to be scary, but I didn't really find it that scary. The voyeurism just in general is scary because of Halloween.
Yeah,
I think.
And I think the the camera's kind of shaking, and like you see them, they'll hear something, they'll look right, but they never see them. I think that's great. I love the bathroom scenes actually. Yeah, where they're all alone in there. You have the mirror. There's just many different things to play with in there, and like that dark shower. I think those are really good too.
So I have a bone to pick there.
Yeah,
just because. So they go. And you have to like watch the thing when Brenda goes in there to brush her teeth and brush her hair. They're always brushing their hair.
They are brushing their hair. Yeah.
In their really, colorful raincoats and underwear.
Yeah, of course.
When she goes back to her room, she went to the bathroom to like show the scare, I guess, like someone was hiding in the shower. But then when she goes back to her room, she had a sink in her room.
I literally have that written down. I did, and I thought the same thing.
Why didn't
she brush her teeth? Why didn't she just brush her teeth in there?
She needed the mirror?
I think there was no mirror. Yeah, I think it was about the mirror and brushing her hair, Ash.
And do you have to brush your teeth in front of the mirror, or can you just do it on your own?
Yeah, I know.
Let us know. Doing it our whole lives. I was,
but just, also barefoot, Ash. Like you're just going out there barefoot. It's raining. Yeah. You're getting your feet all muddy, and you just like get into bed too. Yeah. Like I don't know.
You changed into your Ebenezer Scrooge thing, as you said, and then you get into bed. Because this was a slasher film, right? And I don't think there were like a ton of scary moments. But what's your best kill? Okay.
Oh,
what's the scariest kill? What's the best kill? What's the best slasher kill?
the best, I think the Kevin Bacon one, where just like through the neck, like he's enjoying it. He just had a lovely little evening,
like smoking a joint.
Yeah, and you're not expecting it, and just through the neck. I mean, I think that's my best kill on this.
Arrow. Okay, so Kevin Bacon is lying in bed smoking a joint, and he gets an arrow. Well, the blood kind of drips down from.
He feels that first,
on the top bung. He's like, "Oh, what's this?" And then immediately arrow through the neck from the archery, and like just blood spurting everywhere.
Yeah.
But
so Mrs. Voorhees was there the whole time then in the room.
She was
with
under
him.
the bed. Yeah.
Oh,
okay. But logistically, can we talk about the logistics of this? How is that arrow? There's no way. It can't go through the mattress and then through his neck. Like through his neck.
I mean, there were a lot of unrealistic things there. And Mrs. Voorhees is just doing it too. I mean, Alice chopped her head off with a machete.
But you couldn't. How sharp are these archery things? Like they're killing everybody? That
apparently
goes
very.
Through a mattress and through this man's neck.
Apparently.
Okay.
It's the wonder of film, Ash. It's the magic of filmmaking.
I did enjoy the kill. Like I thought it was a good one. But you're just like, okay, that's not even possible. But yeah, so that was the best kill, definitely. And then obviously the chopping the head off. I mean, nothing even comes close.
Yeah.
So do you know how they filmed that?
I don't know.
So I guess it was a guy. It was a prosthetic head. And it was a guy like leaning down. Obviously, it wasn't. Obviously,
I assumed it wasn't. Yeah,
it was prosthetic, and I think they had like one chance to get it right because it's pretty expensive.
Oh wow, yeah.
And because you can kind of tell when it goes across. I'm like, those aren't real bones or anything.
No.
But that in the sequels, her head really becomes important.
It does. Yeah, that becomes a little shrine.
Indeed, even in the video game. All right, let's talk about cliches and ripoffs. We're going to combine them for this episode. So what do you think? What are the horror movie cliches? What are the ripoffs in this movie?
I mean, cliches, and Halloween maybe started all that, right? Obviously, the teenagers who don't care, like going off to have sex,
the randy,
the drinking, exactly. That's obviously a cliche. I think the town, like I think Ralph is a cliche in himself too, right? Like the town crazy, as you said,
he's
warning them.
Who does he remind you of? What movie does this
it's
character
Pet
remind
Cemetery.
you of?
It's Pet Cemetery.
Pet Cemetery.
Isn't there a town?
Drink. Okay, I know you like always.
Yes, there is. There's a town. There is someone
crazy
in Pet Cemetery. I'm pretty sure. Wait, what are you thinking of?
I'm thinking of a very iconic coming of age movie in the 90s. Now and Then. Remember Now and Then? The guy in the bicycle.
No, I don't.
He saves Christina Ricci's character at the very end, and they thought he was crazy, and like he was just like a normal guy whose like wife died or something. And he's like pedaling around the graveyard. It definitely reminded me of that.
I haven't seen Now and Then since like.
Well, I challenge you to go rewatch it, and it's basically I think they ripped off Friday the 13th.
Okay.
The pantry.
Oh well, okay. Halloween, the pantry.
It is the closet. It's the same thing. She's even framed.
That's what I said. She's Jamie Lee
way.
Curtis. Yeah, she has the short hair.
She also has the same outfit on.
It's the same outfit. It's the same like button-up shirt or whatever, and the jeans. Yeah, absolutely. It's Jamie Lee Curtis. Like you said, Jamie Lee Curtis. Like I don't know if I'd give her that low, but
I don't know. And it's always the same like character, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like. Right, like pristine, like they're like the good girl.
Always.
Like I said before, pick me. That definitely is a cliche for sure, and a ripoff of Halloween.
Yeah, and what about The Shining? When she comes through, there, right? And I believe she even said something like she's not saying "Here's Johnny," but she's saying something. She says something similar, right? As
she should have said "Here's Jason."
Yeah, she should have.
Right?
Here's Mommy, or something like that.
Oh my goodness, what a missed opportunity,
Mommy. She said something. But she comes through, and it's always like they think they're safe. Like you said before, we were talking about Strangers. Like obviously, so many things have ripped that off since. The Strangers has Cabin in the Woods ripped off the entire movie, but that was on purpose. I mean, that movie was. I love that movie.
I don't know if I'd be that scared of this woman. Like. She slapped her. Like, you could take her down.
I could.
Also,
I think I could take her.
Where were her weapons? Where were else? She had the boiling water. She had the axe. Where did that go? She had the bloody axe.
I don't know.
She did.
I don't know.
Those hides in the pantry. She could have ran. You could have taken this woman. So I think
agree.
that was also like why it wasn't that scary for me because I'm like, this isn't really believable. She's not like
Because
7 feet
later,
like Jason.
yeah, and later when
know.
it becomes Jason, he has like almost like inhuman strength, right?
Yes.
And you're right. Mrs. Voorhees is just a regular mother, regular woman. Yeah.
Not to, diss women, but I'm just
No,
like,
of course
it was
not.
2 women. I think she could have taken her. I have another one when they go to the archery. So when Brenda goes to the archery and the lights turn on, that reminded me of Scream.
Yes.
When they're out at the pool,
yes.
and the lights go on, and the guy's there, and her boyfriend,
yes. Drew Barrymore's character's boyfriend's like,
the chair.
Yeah, that did actually.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I think that ripped it off a little bit because that was actually good. I kind of wish they showed the kill, Brenda's kill. Maybe it was for budgetary reasons. I don't know. They didn't show it.
They didn't show a lot of kills. They didn't show Ned's kill either.
No, no.
I kind of like that though. Like, and then you just saw their bodies. Maybe they did originally film the mesh, and then maybe they just didn't make the final cut.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But okay, another thing. Speaking of those, like we've talked a lot about this, the raincoats. I mean,
so many raincoats.
But right, that yellow raincoat and
yeah.
I think that's a direct ripoff of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and the rain. It was like the Blairtown, New Jersey Water Company. Like it wasn't actual rain. They helped.
I assumed it wasn't. Yeah,
yeah, they helped facilitate that. Goddamn, was it rainy?
Oh, it was rainy. Yeah. I love that though. That really added to the atmosphere. I mean, of course it had to be like a stormy, rainy night. It was great.
Of course. And the voyeurism was just so good, right? Like we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was basically, if you rewatch Halloween, it's the exact same. That first person camera work, and it's like the kill, and then and then it's like present day, and it's always like that first night, and then that inspired
Years later.
I guess, years later of the night. But the some of the voyeurism didn't really work for me. They, when they're going down the lake and like you can see the person in the tree and they're like or whatever they're doing, and they walk right by her, right? And when the ending, it's like a woman's. I guess that's why she kind of had a muted colored sweater. Well, they're standing there by the tree, like they don't even see her. Like, how did they not see her in the woods?
Yeah, I don't know either. But one thing I did love is how when the kills where they did know her, because like, oh, this is someone they know. Like that was so great. I love that.
Good.
I love that.
It kind of disarmed you a little bit, and
It did.
It was kind of like Clue, right? You think it's someone in the group, and then they all die individually.
Yeah. That's right.
And I guess the director said that too. It was very much like Halloween. Like he wanted to have the individual kills because Halloween's the same way. Everyone dies by themselves.
They do.
They separate and they die.
Yeah.
So you don't really have group kills. All right. It is time for alternate endings. So this movie does have one.
Okay.
But unfortunately it wasn't filmed, but it was the original script. So the original script was not supposed to have that crazy jump scare.
No,
Okay, no. Originally,
the Jason one where Jason jumps out of the water, right?
That's
Which
right.
I love. Oh,
obviously. So apparently, Alice was going to kill the mother and then row away on that boat and take a nap. Wake up in the morning.
The canoe.
The cops are there. The canoe. It was a canoe.
Yeah.
And the cops are there, and then she just it ends with her just staring out into Crystal Lake, right? Very, very serene. But I guess with the success of some of the other movies, so I guess it was inspired by Carrie, the ending of Carrie when they had that final jump scare. They said they needed something like that. So they added in the Jason jump scare, and audiences lost their minds.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, I was a kid and I did watching it at home.
Yeah. And this might have been one of the first ones to do it. I will say it was original for this. So the jump scare with Jason pulling her into the water and then immediately going to the hospital and saying, what boy? She's like, where's the boy?
Yeah.
What? And the doctors and the cops are like, what boy? She's like, that means he's still there.
Still out there, yeah.
And then it goes back to Crystal Lake and you just kind of see the really serene, calm lake. But so that you mentioned the anthology thing. So that was the reason. So originally it wasn't supposed to be this huge franchise. It was supposed to just be about the revenge of the mother, taking out revenge for her son. Yeah. But then they added in this jump scare and a villain was born, Jason.
Yeah. They're like, we need more of him. We need more of Jason, but like as an adult.
Yeah. And then they kind of, as an adult. That makes what's going on?
Yeah.
He was like 12 years old or something?
I think so. But then like cut to the second one and he's
an adult. He's like 40. Yeah.
That's right.
So who knows? But clearly he was supernatural because he's been dead in that water for like 20 years.
He was resurrected somehow.
He was resurrected. Yeah, I think when his mom died, he became resurrected.
Yeah.
So that was the alternate ending, and like thank goodness they did that. it saved the movie for me. So when they had that surprise ending, it's really, really good. And this one kind of needed it because it wasn't that scary. But the ending was, I agree.
It's a good scare. Yeah.
It's a good scare.
And it's like you said, campy, but okay. And that when she wakes up in the hotel room, in the hospital, when she wakes up in the hospital room, and they obviously did that in Final Girl, and then they've done that. I feel like it was kind of Wayward Pinesy as well.
Very Wayward Pinesy.
Yeah. I love that part. And they don't believe, they're like, what boy? Yeah. So good.
Yeah. I will. So we didn't talk about this in ripoffs. I'm surprised we didn't mention it. I just thought of it now. But Friday the 13th was definitely, it was an inspiration, I think, for Nightmare on Elm Street, the ending, right? When Freddy pulls in the mom back to the door. So that was definitely another one. That final jump scare. It's just so good. And like rewatching it, you are kind of expecting it because you're like, it's too calm. It's too calm.
It's too calm.
Gonna happen.
And do you notice like during it too, though? It's kind of like The Ring. I mean, The Ring did that. Yeah. It's like calm and you're like, oh, like we're good now, but like you're not good. Do you notice too, like, and that like it's the next morning, it's all good. The music changed. The music is now almost like music from like a drama. Like before it was like the and then it's like this dramatic music. Yeah. I like was dying laughing, honestly, watching that during the movie. I'm like, why did it change so drastically?
Yeah. It was like a dream sequence almost.
It was. Yes.
He's still there. And she looks off, as you said before, very forlorn.
She is. I don't dislike Alice as much as you do, though. I actually think she did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
She's no Jamie Lee Curtis. She is no Laurie Strode. I mean, let's be honest. But not bad.
Yeah. At least she fought back.
Yeah, and I think like, okay, let me ask you this question, Ash. Where does she rank? Okay, you've got Nancy. Where does Alice rank? You've got Jamie Lee Curtis and Alice. I think I know your answer.
Bottom of the barrel. Bottom of the barrel. Not a lot of authority there. Not a lot of autonomy. So yeah,
she did want to leave. She did want to leave. To be fair,
she should have left. I just
tried a little harder.
Yeah, I like the smarter like heroines, which, Jamie Lee Curtis and Nancy really were. Nancy might be number one. Okay, we are moving on to the villain. Okay, the villain of this movie. Okay, I have a question for you. Is Mrs. Voorhees the least scary villain of all time? Like, give it to me straight. Like, come on.
Okay, apart from maybe like Norman Bates. Yeah, maybe. I'm not scared of Norman Bates. Maybe Chuck. Yeah, everyone who's been listening to us know how we feel about Chucky.
Yeah.
I think so. I think she may have been the least scary villain.
Like she was crazy, but she comes in and like their big fight, her and Alice, it's a slap fight. And I'm like, is this for real? It's so funny. And then she hits her with a pad. What did she hit her with? A pan. Oh my God, she hits her with a pan. And she goes down, and then she was able to escape.
Okay, and I'll give you. Alice just keeps thinking. She just keeps leaving. Like she doesn't like go in for that final kill, and like Mrs. Voorhees just keeps getting back up. Like okay, I'll give you that. That's a stupid move.
That's a cliche when they stand over the body, kind of in a daze. They're like, and they don't make sure that they're dead. Like that is such a cliche.
Scream corrected that. It's like you got to. They always come back for that one last scare. You got to make sure they're dead.
Make sure they're dead. Yeah. Just in terms of villains, like this franchise took off when Jason became the villain. Like he was actually scary and like this huge guy, and like you'd be scared of him. I'm sorry, like Mrs. Voorhees coming at me, I'd be like, hi. Like I would engage her in conversation.
Yeah, but then she'd like, I don't know, put an arrow through your neck, Ash. So what
I don't. There was a disconnect there because like she had the physical strength. I guess she threw Marcy.
She did. Yeah,
Brenda. Sorry, she threw Brenda through the window. Yeah. But yeah, not scary, but. You had a bit of a payoff at the end when her head got cut off and then Jason avenged her. And so this was a thing with the sequels, right? Like Jason had the head.
Yeah, he did. Right? Yeah. But other than Miss Voorhees, who could Steve have been the villain here? I mean, he did leave all those camp counselors alone for quite some time. He was like just supposed to go off for lunch and he's gone for hours.
Do you think Steve and his little like jean shorts was going to save them all though? Like, you think that guy? You think he was going to be the hero?
I didn't have a ton of confidence in him being the hero. No. I gotta say, I feel like I thought maybe Ralph was going to come back and somehow save them.
Like
now and then apparently.
Like now and then. That's what I'm saying. He was the hero at the end. I don't know. The villain. I said this before. I think the men were just not the best in this movie. Yeah. So that wasn't great, but very common in 80s movies. Mm-hmm. So we're moving on to sips and sequels. Not much to say here because there are a billion sequel?
They've done it all, Ash. It's like all the different universes. I mean, they're bringing Freddy into it. Yeah, space. Jason X.
Yeah, Jason X.
Have you seen Jason? You've seen, obviously seen
I've
Jason
seen it.
X.
I've seen it. Yeah.
The scene where Jason's like out in the outside, like just flying towards the spaceship is amazing. Amazing.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So we'll eventually, I think, review some of the other Friday the 13th. But as I said before, the mother, she's a really pivotal part of Jason's journey. So he avenges his mother, and that's this whole thing. So she avenges him, she dies, he avenges her, and he's like carrying around her head. So do you remember in the video game, right?
Yes.
It's very disturbing. He has her head.
The Friday the 13th video game, for those of you who have never played it, terrifying. And we used to play it as kids. Like, so I scared myself playing that. It was a Nintendo video game.
Very disturbing for children.
It is.
Because they have like the mother's head. You just throw rocks at Jason, but Jason's like 7 feet tall. And somehow he goes from a baby, from like 12 years old, to like 7 feet tall.
Like a grown man. Like, I don't know. Man.
Yeah. But very good. Apparently they're remaking it or something. They're making a new Jason Friday the 13th.
Yeah. It's a prequel, right? It's a Camp Crystal Lake prequel, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, so many sequels. I think it's kind of like campy fun, and they reinvigorated the franchise by remaking Friday the 13th in the 2000s, and those actually were scary.
But like, come on, that first remake of Friday the 13th. I mean, just not the same. Not the same.
It doesn't have the same like nostalgia for sure.
Yeah.
But very, very good. Just in terms of comparing it to like Halloween, like I don't think it comes close. But you know going in what it is. It's this like
that's true
campy slasher movie, and it's very good. And they've have you seen Wet Hot American Summer?
I have, yes.
Yeah. So it kind of like makes fun of Friday the 13th, and it's so good. It's like comedic. It has a little bit of like thrill in it as well.
Yeah. But in terms of sequels, right, Ashley, we've talked about this a bit. I would like to see how Jason came to be this grown man with these supernatural powers. How about show us what happened in between? Maybe that's what this like TV prequel is going to show us.
Okay.
But like show us that place in between of when he jumps up and takes Alice down.
Wait, tell me about the TV prequel.
There's going to be a new Camp Crystal Lake TV show like coming out, I think, on Peacock. Yeah.
I think this is well suited.
It's a prequel
to a TV show, right?
I think so too.
Okay,
but they're going to have to bring in probably some other villains. I'm very curious to see how they do it, right? Because it can't just be Jason going around killing people. It's probably, I would imagine it's going to be like people like pretending to be him or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm excited. Yeah. But I want to know, and listeners, do you have any theories on this? How did Jason go from being that kid that drowned in the lake to what he is in all of the sequels? Like, I just need to know. What are your theories on that?
What are your theories? I think it has something to do with the mother dying, like some kind of transfer of energy. Like, I don't know.
But they need to show us that. Come on, give us one in between. Give us between like Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th 2, part 2. Let's see that. I'd love that.
Friday the 13th 2 opens. Alice is back in it. For a very short time, I will say that. But it's like 2 weeks later or something. They go right back into it, which is really good. And I think the later ones, they're really good. Like Friday the 13th 2 is good. 3 is really good.
They're all really good. I agree. They were all amazing.
Everyone just come back for more. They're like, I don't believe it. And they go back to Camp Crystal Lake. They're like, we're gonna.
And they like go there on purpose too.
Do the kids ever arrive? Is it always just them?
I think the kids
do they?
Every time.
It's just like them.
Like, we got to open be up. Different this time.
We got to open up this camp. I don't know if the kids ever arrive. I don't know. Tell us.
Listeners, do the kids ever arrive at Camp Crystal Lake, or is it always the 2 weeks prior? Them prepping it.
Like back
and
like
back also it's like Friday the 13th always too. It's like I don't think I'd go there on Friday the 13th after like everything that happened.
Well, how was it Friday the 13th? I guess it had to be years later because I'm like, it wasn't always like right before the summer.
Did you know that it was Jason's birthday? Like that, I forgot. I didn't realize it was Jason's birthday.
That. I love that you said that. I didn't know that. Happy birthday, Jason. Because we're releasing this. Happy birthday, Jason Voorhees. We're releasing this on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's right.
We hope you never stop making sequels.
I know.
You immortal little son of a gun, you.
Yeah, you keep terrorizing those teenagers.
Well, that's going to do it for Sips and Screens Episode 7, Friday the 13th. Thank you so much for joining us and listening today on this Friday the 13th. Join us next time as we sip more themed cocktails and discuss the good, bad, and the truly terrifying of our favorite horror movies. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.